Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the 868th Transport and Infrastructure Committee meeting. I'd like to welcome all committee members and visiting Councillor Wilkinson. Thank you for joining us. Our agenda today, we've got attendance apologies. We've got nil, leave of absence nil, confirmation of minutes 867. We have a mover, Councillor Gates, seconder, Councillor Martin. Any questions or changes, Neil? Put the motion to you. All in favour, carry. Do we have any conflict of interest, Neil? So we've currently got 3 start items, 5.1, 6.2, 6.3, actually 4, and 7.1. Any of those, would anyone like to unstar? Councillor Hamill? 7.1 unstar. Any of the others? Councillor Martin?
6.2, Chair.
6.2 unstar. That leaves 5.1 and 6.3. Do you want anyone know? So do we have a mover for 5.1 and 6.3? Councillor Tozer, seconder. Councillor O'Neill. Put the motion to you. All in favour, carry. So that's 5.1 and 6.3. Fantastic. So we'll move to the first item, 6.1, Gold Coast Surf Infrastructure Master Plan. Now, we're going to have a presentation, but that will be enclosed, and then the report's in open. We'll need to go into close for financial and commercial considerations. So I'll get a mover for that first. We'll get the... Yep, Michael?
Can you please explain why it's confidential?
Through the chair, there are some items in there which we want to discuss which involve third party and potential commercial arrangements that we are aware are commercial in confidence. So we wanted to have that discussion with the councillors.
Not happy.
So you're comfortable with that? Yep. So I'll put, do we have a mover to go into close for the presentation? Councillor Martin, I'm happy to second it. Put the motion to you. All in favour, carry. Streaming off. Viewers, we have a presentation, and some of it will be have to be enclosed, but what we've decided to do is to have the presentation what we can in public realm. I think there's some good work here that it's important that that we talk to, and then when we have to go back into close, we'll at that particular time. So we'll hand over to Scott to start the presentation again, and thank you very much.
Lovely. Okay, thanks so much. Good afternoon again. Thanks for the opportunity to present the Surf Infrastructure Master Plan. Today we will be presenting some background on the project, and then we will dive into the project specifics. So the bulk of the work that we've done throughout the Surf Infrastructure Master Plan, and then we'll share some of the outcomes as well. So the Surf Infrastructure Master Plan is a sports infrastructure investment, and it has a focus on surfing. So a good place to start is taking a look at the Australian sporting landscape. And it's important to note that surfing is not only important to the Gold Coast, it is a big part of Australian culture more broadly. But when we talk about sports participation, we understand that there are social, economic, cultural, environmental benefits to sports participation. And broadly, when we invest in sports infrastructure, we're seeking a few different outcomes. Firstly, in sporting participation, we're aiming to improve that overall grassroots participation, and that's about getting people more active more often. Secondly, we're aiming to enhance spectator experiences through things like stadiums, and also we're looking to support elite athletic performance. So no matter what sport that is, we're talking about aspiring world champions or Olympic level athletes. This slide shows some examples of sports infrastructure investment which are Gold Coast specific, and it really highlights that the Gold Coast as a city understands that investment in sports infrastructure delivers a bunch of tangible and intangible offers, benefits to our community. So let's talk about surfing and what it contributes to the Gold Coast. I think everyone is reasonably well versed, but surfing contributes to our active and passive recreation. It's a big part of our social fabric. It's a significant contributor to our economy, over $500 million contribution to our annual economy. It also contributes environmentally. We have a World Surfing Reserve here on the Gold Coast. From a cultural perspective, we have been at the forefront of surfing for a long, long time. We've had many of the sports trailblazers here, and we are recognised globally as a leading surf city. I've included this image because I think it tells a great story about surfing and its relationship to the Gold Coast. This was an image from a couple of years ago at the Challenger Series event, and there's a couple of things that strike me here. Firstly, there's not a square metre of beach down there at Snapper Rocks, and you can see people wading into the water to get up close and personal to the action. But beyond that, I think it tells us that surfing is a big part of how we live, who we are, and how we're perceived on the global scale. And then I think about the economic impact, the accommodation, the food, the entertainment, just in and around an event like this. So it's a great example of surfing contributing to a lot of benefits to our city. So we needed to firstly understand what surfing infrastructure is. Through this project, we defined it as built structures and facilities designed to generate waves and facilitate surfing. Within the investigation, we assessed land-based surf amenity, so predominantly wave pools, water-based surf amenity, coastal surf amenity, which includes reefs, groins, nourishment campaigns and jetties. We also explored the notion of using lighting to enhance our natural assets and extend surfing beyond daylight hours. And we've also explored the notion of having a home of surf, so think cultural or industry hubs that can tie in with things like investment attraction. There's a lot of factors impacting surf here at the moment. One of our primary challenges, which we've been grappling with for a while, is we have an increasing amount of recreational surfers year on year. We've had an almost threefold increase since we started counting in 2015, and that's coming off an already high base in 2015. The increase in surfing numbers is leading to overcrowding, which then leads to more instances of user conflict and just a general diminishment of enjoyment in surfing. And our elite surfers, if we think about them, they are competing for waves with thousands of other surfers. So if you think back to that sporting landscape, I can't think of any other sports where our elite athletes are having to contest for a playing area with thousands of recreational sports people. So there's a big difference there between surfing and a lot of other sports. That's just a snapshot of Rainbow Bay. It's not even a particularly crowded day, but you can see on the bottom right image, that's just one example where you'll see every day, particularly in the southern embayment, it's very crowded down there. Okay, so investment into surfing infrastructure has been limited to date. So on the Gold Coast, despite us surfing contributing more than $500 million to our annual economy, investment has been limited, and that's linked to a few factors. Until recently, surfing participation has really been confined to our natural assets. Secondly, and this leads into the second point, is that surf infrastructure is relatively new technology. Surfing's always had a robust global audience, but that's certainly been elevated since the inclusion of surfing in the Tokyo and Paris Olympics. And there's just, in general, a lack of perceived need for surfing infrastructure, and that's linked to a lack of understanding about what surfing infrastructure is, how it can mitigate challenges, and the opportunities associated in that landscape. So we're exploring that through the Surf Infrastructure Master Plan. The wave pool landscape is quite interesting. So up until recently, most infrastructure investment in wave pools is driven by the private sector. It's a fairly tried and tested model. Identify a region and a parcel of land, license some surf tech, build some ancillary infrastructure around that wave pool. So I think commercial, retail and residential, and it is a user pays model. But this wave pool space is quite interesting. Firstly, it's a controlled environment, so you can customise conditions, whether that be a tiny wave for a surfer in the infancy of their journey, right up to waves which can facilitate elite level training. There's no rips, there's no marine animals. You can facilitate surfing outside of daylight hours, and you can host events there and help with load spreading. There's lots of solutions to challenges and opportunities in the surf infrastructure landscape. Firstly, we have an opportunity to approach surf infrastructure investment in the same vein that we do other sports infrastructure. We can now recognise that wave pool and artificial reef technology is tried and tested. There's lots of examples of that. The investment in surf infrastructure can deliver those sporting outcomes, so that's participation and elite performance outcomes. It reduces safety and economic barriers, and it can act as a lever for other investment attraction opportunities. So this leads us into the main body of work, the Surf Infrastructure Master Plan. As Ross mentioned earlier, it's directly linked to the outcomes of the coastal lifestyle strategy. It is a natural flow-on from the surf management plan. It's not designed to replace the surf management plan, but similar to the surf management plan, it is a world first to our knowledge. This is a quick overview of the entire project scope. We began this body of work back in November 24. We did some pre-scope studies to fill some data gaps we had. Our main contract award was in December 2024, and we finished that piece of work just prior to Christmas last year. And we are now in phase 7 of this project cycle, you can see on the infographic. The objectives of this project were to understand the current and future demands on our surf breaks. Secondly, was to develop a visionary document around surf infrastructure stewardship over the coming 25 years. And thirdly, was to identify some transformational surfing-related infrastructure projects. This is just a condensed view of the consultant's methodology. It's available in the pack, so I won't spend too much time on this slide. Early on in this work, we established a vision and a mission for the SIM. The vision is that the Gold Coast is the home of surf. When people think surf, we want them to think the Gold Coast. It's about enriching our way of life through surfing stewardship, and it is a long-term commitment to safeguarding and enhancing the Gold Coast identity as a leader in surf stewardship. Underpinning the vision were 6 key themes, which you can see on the right-hand section of the slide there. We achieved our outcomes, our objectives, through this piece of work. We have a much better understanding of our current and future surf breaks, demand on surf breaks. We have developed a visionary document to steer surfing stewardship over the 25 years, and we've identified some really interesting and transformational infrastructure-related surfing opportunities.
Okay, Scott, I think this second part of the presentation will need to go into close. So Councillor O'Neill will move to go into close. As we said earlier, for financial and commercial reasons. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Tozer, all in favour? Carrie, we'll have streaming off. streaming on. We've got to change recommendation. Councillor O'Neill, did you want to? Any questions? Did you want to move it first, Councillor? Do we have a seconder? Councillor Gates, the seconder. Do we have any questions in relation to the moment? No, Councillor Wilkinson. Councillor Wilkinson.
Thank you, Chair, and thanks, Scott, for the presentation. I thought you did really well, mate, and gave some really good, interesting commentary around what you could say in the public realm, and then, of course, what we said, what was on grey paper, and excited to see, I guess, some of the projects in that regard. And I know I can't speak of them, stretched across the whole city, but, you know, I think that'll only further, the work going ahead will only further enhance, you know, the work and the reputation of the city as one of the world's greatest in this world. So the Surf Infrastructure Master Plan helps to highlight the disparity, as you've said in the reporting here, related to infrastructure investments on the Gold Coast when compared to other sports. Can you provide some examples of other sports we invest in on the Gold Coast from a council level?
Through the chair. Through the chair, yes. I wouldn't delve into project specifics, but if we have a look at just about every sport imaginable from grassroots participation, so think soccer, football fields, aquatic centres, you know, joint projects with state, etc., right up to stadiums and things like that. But you know, I could come back with a more detailed response on notice if you like.
No, I think that highlights the point that we invest a lot in that respect as a city, as a local government body, into infrastructure to support our sporting capacity across the city. And that's, I think you've just highlighted it well there, so you don't need to bring anything further back at this stage, mate. The next question I guess, is that the report highlights other examples of public investment into built surf infrastructure, including recently various levels of governments collaborating to build the Southern Ocean Reef in Albany, Western Australia. Can you advise if the local government contributed to that one? And can you identify why they would have considered contributing to that project, noting some of the commentary in the report reflected benefits in tourism, economic development, and retention of Albany's younger age demographic? I guess for us, what could be our potential benefits for investing in this particular master plan?
Through the chair, thanks for your question. I'll focus on Albany Surf Reef first. So that was a purpose-built surf reef, and that was specifically designed to retain young people and families in Albany, and they identified the reef could help to do that. It was strategically positioned near one of their surf lifesaving clubs. Since the construction of that reef structure, they've run a cost-benefit analysis in relation to that. High level increase in visitors, increase in overnight stays, increase in retention of young people, their target market in Albany. In relation to the Gold Coast, well, surfing is a contributing factor as to why people visit or live on the Gold Coast. So any type of infrastructure which can enhance our existing assets or provide new high-quality surfing amenity should further contribute to our visitor economy and our way of life here.
Thanks, mate. And I guess the last one, just in relation, I guess, and we've got a bit of a change recommendation up there today, but I just want to, again, confirm it through officers. You know, that there is no capital funding identified specifically to deliver the outcomes of the master plan in today's report, and that any funding towards surf infrastructure projects will be presented back to Council at Gate 1 of the P3M framework for future consideration of funding.
Yeah, through the chair, I can confirm that that's correct.
Yeah. Councillor Tozer.
My question is about the timeline. There's 3 projects identified in the confidential report that all seem nominally speculative, even though they all got substance to them that I think has some merit. Item 2 talks about those projects coming back and to Gate 1. When is a reasonable timeline to think that we might see the first of those considered?
Through the chair, we haven't got any specific timelines in relation to any of those projects at the moment. Our first objective was to present the master plan and seek endorsement. And then based on, I guess we would look at that from a priority perspective, which project we might think might carry more weight, for example, and then that would fall into the timeframes which we would require to get a project to gate 1. So that might be some high-level planning. Firstly, I don't think I'd attach a timeframe to it at this stage, but if we seek endorsement today, or if we are endorsed, then we can start prioritising those potential projects and bring it back to council.
I could probably add through the chair that we've just been through a fairly robust prioritisation process through our capital program.
Yes.
And as you know, councillors, our primary focus at the moment from a beach and surf perspective is to shore up our northern beaches, and that is fundamentally our priority at the moment in terms of this type of investment.
Right.
That's not to say that project can't deliver surfing outcomes, in which when we're actively trying to ensure that we achieve both a coastal resilience outcome and a surfing outcome up there.
Yeah.
So you might see something along the lines that might be the first surf infrastructure related project, albeit it's really tied to coastal erosion and resilience as a primary role. So
primary function.
Yeah, primary function. But yeah, in terms of the next our priorities over the short to medium term, that
beach repair is number one.
Yeah.
So I'm going to kind of push that question a little bit more. So in the projects that we talked about in closed, there was a number of projects across the city. And my question is, would it be reasonable for a member of the public or a councillor to think that some of that funding that is allocated to beach repair might suitably be attached to one of these projects without disclosing the projects or things like that? Is it possible for that to occur?
So through the chair, any project budget that we assign to beach repair, if there is a requirement to provide an uplift to that budget to deliver a surfing outcome, we will disclose that to council, what that additional investment needs to be.
Yeah.
But at this stage, we are hopeful that if we are doing the work at, say, Northern Beaches Protection Project,
yes, which is already an allocated budget,
which is already allocated, if we can deliver a surf amenity outcome with little or no additional cost, then we will do it.
Right. So that's actually really what I'm getting at in open. I want to be kind of reassured that as we go through the Northern Beaches Protection Project, which is an allocated budget that's in the public domain, will that process necessarily take into account some of the Gate 1 assessments of these projects that are, I get they're more related to surf, but there's no doubt that sometimes a project has multiple purposes, and it's quite possible that some of these could be accelerated if the Northern Beaches Protection Project, which is in the public domain, could be fractionally augmented.
Through the chair, no different to how we approach the Palm Beach project.
Yes.
Coastal protection first and foremost, surf amenity second. We delivered that project. It was successful. Northern Beaches, we're looking at it the exact same way.
Yes.
Coastal protection first and foremost, surf amenity second. If we can deliver them both at the same time, why would we not? So we will.
Yeah. Great. Awesome. So for the public, from a public perspective, it can be reasonably concluded by that over the next 1 to 3 years, some of these projects that might have shared interests to our Northern Beaches Protection Project might actually be able to be delivered.
Through the chair, correct.
Thank you.
Do we have any more questions? Okay. Councillor O'Neill, would you like to open?
Thanks, Chair. I think also thanks, Scott, for your presentation, and I think that it's prudent of the Gold Coast City Council to look at endorsing a Gold Coast Surf Infrastructure Master Plan at this time. We do have to plan for growth, and I think through the World Heritage Surfing Reserve Stewardship Committee, we've acknowledged that there will be growth, and I'm sure that they will be happy to hear that we are looking at a master plan. I also think that we've have to acknowledge the huge increase of surfing participation on the coast, not only by people who live here, but through visitors as well. And enhancing surfing experience and planning for that growth, I think that we're doing the right thing by endorsing a master plan, which is a 25-year vision. I get it, but I certainly welcome that we're going to be investigating what we can do to ease the load of overcrowding on some of our point breaks, especially in the south. And of course, we're looking at protecting our beaches as well. And I acknowledge that the reef that we built, that the council built off Palm Beach, has given us another surf break there. So I think that that's the sort of thing that we should be looking at going forward. I would hope that my councillor colleagues agree with me, and that we should be looking at surfing as one of our main sporting activities on the coast, and hopefully might even be in the Olympics on the coast. Keep our fingers crossed. But certainly happy to put this forward today. Thank you.
Does anyone want to speak against the motion? No? Did you want to talk to it?
Quick comment, Chair, if I could. I'm excited by this one, and I just want to acknowledge the long and detailed work of the team, and Scott and Ross and all the infrastructure team. I think it's really exciting that, surfing's always been, surfing second. Like, we've had coastal resilience projects, but for the first time, looking at surfing, like the population growth, the economic impact from a surfing first lens is really exciting. So I think it's really bold and innovative that we have a surfing infrastructure plan, which is going to guide us, long term, 25 years. It might be some projects that are, surfing related that'll help with spreading the load across the coast. We're a global surf destination. I'm really reminded we just had the World Surf, the Championship Tour event. We've got Flotsam and Session Surf Festival here. So it's, really current, and, we've got the world's best either, participation, but also our elite athletes, and hearing that, how they have to train in amongst, the community. Really excited by having this dedicated plan that, we might find other opportunities to continue our growth along the coast. So well done on, I know this has been years in the making, but exciting to have this in our arsenal so we can look forward for future infrastructure.
Anyone else want to speak? Look, I'll just close by saying, as the city grows, and it's obviously a common saying that we're growing as a city, and it was highlighted during question that we do have over 50 kilometres of beaches. We have a great participation of board riders along the coastline, but of that 58 kilometres of beaches, there's areas that we don't have those surfing facilities to use. So we may have a lot of beach and a lot of surf along the coastline, but are they actually able to be surfed good conditions for not just our local residents but our top surfers? And how many we've achieved on the Gold Coast is incredible. So these type of projects will help limit the amount of challenges and frustration that I know happens in the water. So it's a great body of work. It's important that we have this on our radar. And also, it's a body of work that when we actually are looking at our resilience of our beaches, we've got body of work to actually refer to hopefully improve our surf breaks on the coastline. So I'll put the motion to you. Put the motion to you. All in favour? Against? Carry. Thank you very much, Scott. Thank you, Ross. Thank you, Mark. Team, well done. 6.2, our Coastal Lifestyle Strategy 2050 Annual Progress Report. I think we've still got Scott here. Not sure if Matt, but Ross is here. Did we have some questions on that? Was it Councillor Gates? Sorry, Councillor Martin, was it? My apologies.
Thank you, Chair. I was just trying to find the page. I think it was... my question is around, as an action, Ocean Way. And completion, I think on page 96 we've got Mermaid Beach and also Palm Beach. So just kind of seeking an update as to the status of that and how those investigations are going around that completion strategy.
Yep. So thanks for the question, Councillor Martin. We are advancing 2 sections of Ocean Way as part of our Ocean Way completion strategy currently. They are the Mermaid Beach North Ocean Way and the Palm Beach South Ocean Way. For the Palm Beach South Ocean Way, because of the Ocean Way's interrelationship with coastal hazard, i.e. it'll be portions of that Ocean Way will be east of the A-line and east of the seawall. There's 2 bodies of work currently underway. The first is the technical engineering perspective. That is, how do we design an interrelated boardwalk or structure that either ties in with the seawall that's there or is completely independent. And of course, the reason why we're excited about the Palm Beach South section is because we will get a lot of learnings from that particular project for Mermaid Central and Mermaid South, where we'll be able to build and construct a range of different variants of that future boardwalk at Palm Beach and hopefully gain a lot of learnings out of that solution. The second body of the work is the environmental approvals perspective. So we are in the process of putting together an approval to the EBBC as part of those 2 Ocean Way projects at Mermaid and Palm Beach. And there's a whole range of environmental studies that are underway at the moment. And we are looking to have a submission to EBBC by about July, and then we'll know from within 6 months of whether that's a controlled action. The other, of course, we're not just waiting for our approvals. We're doing design work concurrently. So on both sections of Ocean Way and Palm Beach South, we have funding in the budget to advance that project through to completion.
Thank you. Just to follow on from that, thanks for that update. So when is it likely that we might have something to share with the community on what it might look like? Sorry, would that be potentially later this year or at least this coming calendar year if the budget's been included?
So through the chair, the next phase of community engagement is currently in planning right now. We are intending on going out to perform a whole of city community engagement exercise on the completion of the Ocean Way. So that'll be the first time that the city has been we're seeking active engagement from the community around the various areas that we're intending to, or various gaps we're intending to fill in, and also the type of solution that we're looking to deliver there. We'll be seeking their feedback on that. We'll also be seeking feedback from the community around what other types of infrastructure they'd like to see to complement the Ocean Way, i.e. Shade, beach showers and other amenity infrastructure that might complement the Ocean Way. So the community will get a good say in the coming months about the Ocean Way coming forward.
Do we have any more questions? Do we have a mover? Councillor Martin, seconded Councillor Tozer. What was that? Do you want to talk to it at all?
Oh, just to say that we're noting the progress of the strategy. So thank you for the update and also the additional questions, and looking forward to further community engagement on that.
Okay. Did you want to? No. I'll put the motion to you. All in favour? Against? Carry. Thank you. 6.4, Napa Road, Arundel, Parkwood planning. Nick Prasser, not sure if there's a presentation or whether it's just for questions. As a presenter.
There is a presentation for 6.4 through the chair.
Yeah. Does anyone need a break for 5 minutes? No? Continue on? She's just gone. We'll give her a couple of minutes. We'll get started.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chair. We are here today to talk about Napa Road and to respond to a council resolution from last November regarding Napa Road at Arundel, Parkwood. And the council resolution was generated from a general business item raised at the Transport Infrastructure Committee by Councillor Wilkinson, and he asked for the report back to council that articulated the current configuration and performance of Napa Road, assess the influence of a number of factors, including the Coomera Connector and some development proposals, and what are some likely future capacity and safety improvements along Napa Road. So just to give you an overview, Napa Road is a city-controlled road that runs east-west, traversing two suburbs, Arundel and Parkwood, Arundel being to the north, Parkwood to the south, and at each end it connects to a state-controlled road. So Smith Street, Pacific Motorway, Exit 66 interchange in the west, and Olsen Avenue in the east. The attributes of Napa Road: it's 4.4 kilometres long, it's a sub-arterial road, and it's really clearly split into two sort of configurations. East of Arundel Drive, it's 40 metres wide road reserve, and west of Arundel Drive, it's a 28 metre road reserve. 60% of the corridor is a 4-lane road, and the other 40% is a 2-lane road. Primarily 60 km/h road with a section at the eastern end which is 70 km/h, plus a 40 km/h school zone around Arundel State School. And it does provide access to a number of key traffic generators: Parkwood Light Rail Station, Arundel Plaza Shopping Centre, Arundel State School, and Parkwood Golf Course and Leisure Centre. Those diagrams show good images about the way it looks for the different sections: the eastern section 2-lane and the western section 4-lane. Just some traffic volume figures for Napa Road. You can see there with the diagram. We've got around the busiest section there obviously is the western section as it leads into Smith Street. Currently got about 21,300 vehicles per day on it. It's also busy in the central section between Arundel Drive and Parkwood Boulevard, or Captain Cook Drive, past the school, which has also got around 20,000 vehicles a day on it, and the other sections are around about the 15 to 17,000 vehicles a day. It's not used by a lot of trucks, so it's not a designated freight route. And Arundel Drive and Captain Cook Drive are really critical junctions along Napa Road with high traffic volumes. Entering and exit Napa Road, characterised by highly variable flow patterns throughout the day, and in particular those two intersections currently have peak hour congestion. Traffic growth has been relatively steady, about 1% per year over the last 10 years, and compared to other roads, there are some other major roads on the Gold Coast that have growth rates of around about 2.5%, so it's quite steady. This is likely due to modest population growth in the area, 1.3% annually as compared to the Gold Coast 2.7%, and there's probably a motorist preference to use the surrounding state-controlled roads to get to and from the M1, being Smith Street Motorway and Brisbane Road. The typical traffic congestion conditions, so usually free of major traffic bottlenecks. However, currently, motorists do experience heavy congestion westbound on the westbound approach to Smith Street, and with queues going back some 1 kilometre, particularly in the afternoons, as you can see there in the diagram. This is a direct result of the current operation of the Smith Street Napa Road intersection and evolving traffic management conditions associated with the construction of Stage 1 of the Coomera Connector. These delays are expected to substantially ease when Coomera Connector Stage 1 opens in 2028. However, during construction, local motorists are recommended to reroute, retime, remode and rethink their trips along the western section of Napa Road.
Councillor Tozer.
So on that last map, Nick, that's the section where the Coomera connector is being built, right? And the construction is actually right against the edge of Napa Road with that Smith Street intersection. Is that right? Is there going to be a connection from Napa on to the Coomera connector, or are you going to go onto the Smith Street motorway in some sort of loop or something?
Through the chair, Councillor Wilkinson could probably answer that question.
I get it if you want.
Councillor Wilkinson.
Unfortunately, not at this stage. So the access from Napa Road will continue to go to the M1. Unfortunately, with the Coomera connector being built, there isn't an on-off ramp as such for this particular section of road. As part of the original master planning, there was. However, unfortunately, it was removed.
So just so I've got it clear, when you, Nick, say that delays are expected to substantially ease, that's a result of the construction impediment as opposed to some sort of release valve happening.
Yes, primarily, through the chair, primarily the construction activity.
Yeah.
But you've also got to remember, previously there was a four-way intersection at Smith Street, Napa Road, providing access into the Parkwood Park and Ride facility.
Yes.
That has been moved, so that's been moved further to the south along Smith Street. So that intersection is now will be a three-way when the Coomera connector opens. And you've also got to remember that the Coomera connector will take some traffic off the M1, which will free up some capacity at the exit 66 there, which will help ease in getting people out of Napa Road as well. But primarily it is construction activity at this point in time.
Yeah.
The whole Coomera connector is just cantilevered over the top of Napa Road.
Councillor Wilkinson.
Can I also just add some additional commentary there, Chair, in relation to that congestion and through the report, and it's part of some questioning that I've got perhaps later that I was going to raise. But to add to that egress of congestion, there's also the access that's going to be at both Smith Street and the Gold Coast Highway or Brisbane Road for motorists travelling to get out basically of the city. So where you talk of congestion, it should also hopefully through driver behaviour, knowing that once those two opportunities, which is the north and the south, east-west major connection roads to get to either the M1 or the Coomera connector, once they become available and open, that would hopefully see a reduction in people trying to access Napa Road as well.
Okay. Cool.
Thanks, Chair. Very well put, Councillor. We do have other locations along Napa Road where motorists do experience congestion. As I mentioned before, Arundel Drive, Captain Cook Drive, Parkwood Boulevard. You can see the photo there at the top. That's the leg of Captain Cook Drive. In the afternoons, in particular, we have 300-metre queues of traffic turning right into Napa Road. We suspect that's driven by the nearby industrial estate in that vicinity. And then you can see the photo at the bottom with the congestion experienced along the frontage of Arundel State School, which is typical of over 100 schools across the Gold Coast. You can see those represented in the two Google Maps images there as well. Active transport. So Napa Road is designated as a principal route in the SEQ Principal Cycle Network Plan. There are shared paths on both sides of Napa Road, apart from a missing section on the southern side of Parkwood Golf Club. Along the frontage of Parkwood Golf Club, there are cycle lanes on both sides, full length of Napa Road. There is particularly high domestic pedestrian demand, as you'd expect, at the western end, with people walking near Greenacre Drive to and from Parkwood Station, near Arundel Plaza Shopping Centre and adjacent to Arundel State School. Arundel State School did participate in the Active School Travel Program, very successful. You can see the photos there where Active Traveller bike cage was constructed as part of that program, and we've got funding in the capital expenditure budget to improve walking infrastructure in the streets near Arundel State School to encourage park and stride behaviour, where parents can park further away from the school and walk with their children to the school, thus avoiding all the congestion out the front. Public transport, as I mentioned before, we've got Parkwood Light Rail Station located at the western end of Napa Road, and Napa Road has also got 3 bus routes that traverse along it, as depicted in the map. There are currently 10 bus stops along Napa Road, so obviously 5 on either side that are in pairs. All currently meet disability access standards, and 8 of them contain a shelter. An interesting fact, so Parkwood, which is located on the southern side of Napa Road, is split into 2 discrete transport catchments, east and west. And there is no transport connectivity between these catchments. So if you live in the west, you need to use Napa Road to get to Olsen Avenue, whereas you live in the east, you can get to Olsen Avenue by using Wintergreen Drive, and vice versa. If you live in the east and you want to do a trip to Arundel Plaza or to Parkwood Station, you have to use Napa Road. You cannot use the local street system to get there. This also is a barrier for active transport, walking and cycling, and buses. As you can see there, the buses have, you've got one bus route that runs to services the east, one bus route that services the west. So that is a characteristic that is causing unnecessary trips on Napa Road itself. So there has been a suite of recent transport improvement investments along Napa Road. I'm not going to go through them, but you know, we have been investing in Napa Road over the short term. Forecast traffic volumes from our current strategic transport model. You can see there that the 4-lane sections in 2036 and 2041 are they're operating under capacity, but the 2-lane section, the central section there, sorry, the section to the west, it is operating over capacity. So we usually use around the 20,000 vehicles per day as our threshold, where a road, the road's carrying capacity is reached. Once it reaches around about 20,000, it's running over capacity. So in our current LGIP, we have 3 projects: upgrade the Napa Road, Captain Cook Drive intersection, upgrade Napa Road, Greenheart Drive intersection, and upgrade the 2-lane section to 4 lanes in those timing cohorts. In December 2024, our council endorsed the Parkwood Investigation Area Concept Plan, as you can see there in the diagram, for inclusion in the new planning scheme. This included the rezoning of 11 properties on the southern side of Napa Road, opposite the Arundel State School, from rural to medium density residential, so an uplift to potential 278 dwellings on that southern side of Napa Road. Development proposals. So we have a number of development proposals in the area, all at various stages. Some have been approved. So there's a retirement village currently under construction at 106 Napa Road that has been approved. It's under construction. We've got the Parkwood Integrated Surf Park Village, which has been approved. We've got the Arundel Hills Country Club, which was refused, and that's currently under appeal. We've got the Southport Sharks Sports, Lifestyle and Entertainment Master Plan currently being assessed by the city. That's at the eastern end of Napa Road on Musgrave Avenue. And then we have 3 development proposals on the southern side of Napa Road opposite the school in the Parkwood Investigation Area for well, nearly, I think that's about 100 townhouses. So when you add all those up, there's a potential for an additional 15,000 vehicles per day to be using Napa Road as a result of those developments. So as part of doing this bit of work and looking at the corridor in a little bit more detail than we normally do for an LGIP, we've actually come up with an upgrade strategy. And these are over and above of what we have originally identified in LGIP. The first one is Napa Road, Captain Cook Drive, Parkwood Boulevard capacity upgrade. We've identified, I'll go through these individually, but they're the upgrades in the map. So each upgrade does require further planning and stakeholder engagement, and we need to identify feasibility, their definition and value for money. We've also got to understand that the Cooma Connector is opening in 2028, and we will definitely need to monitor traffic patterns once that's open and recalibrate our model to see the effects of the Coomera connector on Napa Road. Then obviously the implementation of each concept is subject to funding availability, citywide prioritisation and budget approval. But what we've come up with is the upgrade of Napa Road, Captain Cook Drive and Parkwood Boulevard, a significant upgrade there by increasing the turning lanes and an additional 2 right turn lanes on Captain Cook Drive. Indicative timing 27 to 31, $8 million. Napa Road, Arundel Drive, we've identified we do need 2 right turn lanes from Napa Road into Arundel Drive, and also extending the left turn into the school passenger loading area. Again, we've identified that it needs to be done before 2031. Order of cost is $8 million. This is the big corridor upgrade, so that's upgrading that 2-lane section to 4 lanes, circa of cost of $50 million with an indicative time frame of 2032 to 2036. We've got the Koala Street extension, so this is not on Napa Road. This is a concept that we believe will help with the east-west issue that we have. We've got this street called Koala Street, which is currently a cul-de-sac. Opening that up will help, or it will fix that issue with the east and the west, and it will take traffic off Napa Road. It will also provide optimised bus services in the area and help with active transport as well. And then a longer term, we have identified that the central corridor, pretty much from Allied Drive through to Arundel Drive, will need capacity enhancements, likely a 3rd westbound lane, which can be facilitated. We're very lucky. We do have a 40-metre wide corridor through here, and that is a longer term 2037, 2041 solution at an order cost of $20 million. Wildlife vehicle collisions. So Napa Road is a collision hotspot zone with wildlife. In 2022, Council did endorse the Wildlife Vehicle Collision Mitigation Program, and Napa Road was high on the list for that program. And the city is rolling out fauna exclusion fencing adjacent to the parklands and bushland areas, putting in some dry ledges on our culvert. So we recently upgraded a culvert, as you can see there in the photo, where we put in some fauna ledges, and it's also identified either a land bridge or a fauna culvert between Arundel Hills Country Club and the Brushwood Ridge Reserve, which we will look at implementing as part of that 4-lane corridor upgrade, and obviously some vehicle activated warning signs. So this is integrating the wildlife mitigation program with our road network planning. So funding and resourcing, the corridor upgrade strategies has an order cost of around about $80 million. Further detailed planning is required, so these are still very conceptual, and we also obviously need to do some further modelling once the Coomera Connector Stage 1 is open, and we will determine the best arrangements for upgrading Napa Road once we've done that remodelling, and make sure that our investment is optimised. And then we would like to put these concepts, as outlined in the report, in a future amendments of LGIP. That concludes the presentation.
Questions, Councillor Tota?
My question's that I had heard some rumours about the potential for Olsen Avenue to have light rail to Harbour Town. Is any of the modelling that we've done take that into account if that was to be announced as part of the budget in next month?
Through the chair, no.
We haven't thought about that at all. No.
It's an idea we have heard in a meeting, and nothing's been confirmed. So it would be premature for us to do any modelling or analysis on that at this point in time.
Cool.
Councillor Wilkinson?
Just to comment on that one, I'd certainly welcome it if it were to eventuate. But again, it would then also feed into the existing stations that are already around Parkwood and Arundel as well. So you'd have a better connectivity that would also move people north into the city, progressively, potentially up Olsen Avenue, if it were to be something that the state government would have the appetite to go towards. I've got questions, Chair, if you'd let anyone else go first.
Yep, anyone else? No, we'll come back to Councillor Hamill.
So I did have one noting that detailed design on the dual carriageways and those sections wouldn't have been done yet, but do we have the road reserve for this entire corridor, or are there sections where we need bits of land or properties to make this happen?
Yeah, through the chair, we primarily have the entire corridor. There will be some slithers of land we'll require around corners and truncations and things like that. But our corridor planning, we can fit 4 lanes within a 20-metre nominal 20-metre wide road reserve width. There will need to be some compromises. Obviously, we would like more, but it would be impractical for us to go and buy up a row of houses. I think we can make some compromises with the cross section and live with the 28 metres.
Understood.
Councillor Wilkinson.
Thank you, Chair. And firstly, I'd like to thank the officers for pulling all this data and information together. I think for my community, this provides a level of transparency that they haven't really had, although the information may have been available previously. Having it succinctly placed into a document such as this really just gives a bit more clarity and, I guess, a better comprehension about what the current and the future considerations around Napa Road really look like. And it's certainly welcomed and something I'm glad to have raised on behalf of my community. Whilst I agree with, and I don't argue the data, there are some elements still within that I disagree with, and I am getting to a question here, Chair. I just thought I'd add that. Yep. Of course, even regarding the preference of the surrounding state controlled roads for through trips, we know that they're a bit like car parks as well at the moment, so I share my community's frustration on some of that commentary. But again, I'd also note that the report talks about driver behaviour, and hopefully once the Coomera connector has finished, we'll see that change, and hopefully motorists indeed do use that new infrastructure as it's intended. As I said, I've got several questions I'd like to raise. Some of these are my own, some of these are from the community that I asked to give me some feedback on. So I'm hopeful that we can get a few things clarified, I guess, as part of today's discussion. So the first one I've got is just simply, where do we get our data from for these reports in relation to road figures? Is it our own data? Do we look at other data? How do we put it all together?
Through the chair, we get data from a lot of sources. Obviously, we've got traffic and intersection counts that we do. We've got a whole repository of historical counts. We have data that we can get from our traffic signal loop detectors, state road crash data portals, Google Maps, Near Maps, historical aerial photos. We've got access to Q imagery, and we've also got our strategic transport model. And, we've got a lot of access to a lot of historical information in Objective.
Yeah, very comprehensive. My next question is that obviously the city road network has competitive needs. We've got a lot of jobs that we need to deliver across this city. And so can you give some, I guess, comparative roads and what they look like and what their capacity is when, I guess, arguing, given the presentation highlighted that there had been steady traffic growth of less than 1% over the past decade compared to other major Gold Coast roads at 2.5%. And I guess from that, how do we consider LGIP in that process?
Through the chair, I would dearly love to upgrade every road across the city if I could. I'm a transport planner, that's my job. However, we really have to optimise public investment. To do that, we have to be very strategic. So we have a number of roads across the city that are clearly higher priorities than Napa Road. Okay, we've got Ualpa Road, Foxwell Road, Christine Avenue, are some really good examples of roads that are really operating over capacity at the moment. And we have plans in place in our 4-year program to address those. Benowa Road is another one that's currently emerged that we really need to take a seriously good look at. Binstead Way is another good example where that section there is operating over capacity. Whereas at the moment, we do know that there are some issues with performance along Napa Road, but a lot of that is led by the Coomera connector. What you've got to remember from a transport perspective, though, is we really have to target our priorities first on safety. So our 4-year CapEx program, which was recently endorsed by a special budget committee, has a lot of intersection upgrades in it. We've got a lot of T intersections: Beatty Road, Tilly Rowan Road, Creek Street, Nilson's Road, Old Pacific Highway, Mebane, where we need to signalise those intersections for safety. And safety will always be our number one priority. we go down the list. We have some obligations that we need to do in terms of trunk conditions we have with developers, and we've also got some opportunistic projects. Coomera Hospital, we've got some interfaces with the Coomera Connector and some developments. And as you go down the list, there's capacity. So capacity is a priority criteria, but it's not the highest criteria. Then you've also got to remember that we also have to also balance our transport investment with active transport, public transport, asset renewals as well. So we throw them all in the mix, and we really have to be able to prioritise and optimise our investment that we have. The last criteria is affordability. So we might have some projects that are higher up in the priority list, but then it all comes down to the affordability envelope that we have to spend on transport.
I appreciate the comprehensive answer, because I think that gives the community a bit of an idea of what we are juggling as a city as well. So you touched on development, and I'll bring that into LGIP in the next question, I guess. Where, can you describe the difference between what trunk and non-trunk infrastructure is? And in the context of, I guess, when somewhere has got a development application on it, and I'll use the example of the integrated wave pool that we know is on there, it's approved. How does that factor for things like the Napa Road and Captain Cook intersection, which were conditioned as part of that DA? Because I believe there is a bit of a misunderstanding in the community space around who's funding what, even though it's conditioned as part of a DA. So can you run me through that process?
Yeah, through the chair. So trunk infrastructure obviously has a broader benefit to the wider community, whereas non-trunk has a localised benefit only. From a transport perspective or roads perspective, really to be trunk infrastructure, it has to be listed in LGIP, has to be on an arterial or sub-arterial road. But that particular development, the surf park there at Parkwood, they have to signalise their intersection on Napa Road. That's non-trunk. They're generating the need to do that. They've also got a trunk condition where they have to upgrade the intersection of Napa Road, Captain Cook Drive, Parkwood Boulevard. That's listed in LGIP. We would normally have to go and do that ourselves, and we do have that in a 10-year program. But they're generating the need to bring those works forward. So we have conditioned the surf park to upgrade the intersection as trunk infrastructure, and that will be funded by the city through an infrastructure agreement.
Okay, and I guess to get that very clear in relation, would it be fair to say that this upgrade that we're talking about there with the LGIP, it's tied to that DA, which is part of the developer must undertake that as part of stage one, I believe, for their development. Before any traffic impacts occur, we'd look to have that funding agreement, I guess, in place for those works and support these works, which are going to be realised perhaps sooner than they otherwise may have been. Is that a fair point to say, I guess?
Yeah, through the chair, you said during stage one, those works have to be done before stage one. They have to be done before stage one commences use, and that includes the Captain Cook Drive intersection, yes.
Yeah. In relation to Olsen Avenue, and I realise it's a state road, but is there anything that we considered further as far as capacity, or did we look at Olsen Avenue for capacity, or is that something we'd need to just go and talk to the state about?
Through the chair, yeah, so the intersection Olsen Avenue, Napa Road, Muscat Avenue is a state intersection. We know it has some operational difficulties, which will only get worse over time if there if there are no capacity upgrades there. And it's a matter of liaising with the state. The state are very much aware of that intersection.
Yeah. I guess these have been in no particular order that I'm asking today, but in relation to talking about trams and other things, as much as I would have loved to have seen the tram run underground, perhaps at the Smith Street Napa Road intersection, I don't believe, and from your experience, has there been any appetite from the state government around that? And it would ultimately be a state decision if that were to ever kind of come to the table, I guess.
Through the chair, so the northern extension of light rail, as I mentioned before, was an idea that was mentioned at a meeting, and that's as far as we know. There's been no formal announcements from the state, and definitely no liaison with the bureaucrats about any technical issues.
Just to clarify, I'm talking about the existing rail line that already runs at Napa Road and Smith Street, but there's been no conversation with the state to say that we'd underground that or anything. It's, again, community wanting to see some of these things happen, and I'm just trying to get clarity that it would be a state decision perhaps. And again, I don't believe they've been in conversation with the council about anything like that.
Yeah, through the chair. Sorry, I got the eastern end mixed up with the western end. So yes, the tram or the light rail does have priority through that intersection of Smith Street and Napa Road. They have priority like they have a priority across the rest of the city. And so that should. It's public transport, it's high quality public transport, mass transit, it should have priority. And that will always impinge on the operational performance of that intersection, no doubt. But with taking away that southern leg and with some tweaks to the traffic signal timing, we believe that once the Coomera Connector's open, that it will work okay.
And in addition to that, the sequencing of the lights, again, that is something that, whilst we feed back information to TMR, it's ultimately TMR that is responsible for the timing of the traffic lights at that particular intersection.
Through the chair, yes.
Yeah. Just in relation to active transport along Napa Road, page 185 highlights that both sides of Napa Road have footpaths that exceed has footpaths except for one section that has a 950 metre gap between Woodlands Way and Parkwood International. Beyond that, can you confirm if there are any other footpath upgrades that are planned, for instance, around Arundel State School, that are being worked into the budget for upgrades, even with preliminary designs currently underway?
Through the chair, no specific active transport projects along Napa Road. We do have an active transport project around Arundel School, as I mentioned before, but that's in local streets surrounding that school to help with the park and ride behaviour, and we'll be upgrading the paths along Napa Road as part of that 4-lane corridor upgrade, but no specific active transport project.
I might have one that I'm aware of, project number 09264, but I'll talk to you about that at another stage. Just in relation to comments made around the entrance there, as part of that, what we was disclosed today, there is a proposal to extend that school entrance by about 70 metres as well, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Yeah. Okay. I'd also add that I'm also working with the school, I guess, to look at other ways to ease congestion around that particular intersection, and hopefully we'll get some other options come forward soon. I'd note that the report does highlight that both Brisbane Road and Smith Street Motorway, once the Coomera Connector, are hopefully completed, and I think the approximate time frame is 2028 for that. Again, can you just, and I know we touched on it a little bit earlier, just for the community's sake, explain how that will hopefully ease congestion? And I guess, is there a number that we've got in relation to the Coomera Connector accommodating some of the traffic that would be otherwise going onto the M1? Do we know how much that's going to move people?
Through the chair, so the reason why they're building the Coomera Connector is because 30% of traffic currently on the M1 are doing local trips. So 30% of traffic is on a road that is being designed and function as an intercity road and a freight route. And that's because the local arterial network is deficient. So they want to get 30% of the traffic off the M1 onto the Coomera Connector. That's the whole idea of the Coomera Connector, is to take that traffic that's travelling from Coomera over the Coomera River through Helensvale off the M1. The busiest road in Queensland is currently M1 at Helensvale. It's got over 200,000 vehicles a day on it. So
I know, Councillor. It's fine. Please continue, Nick.
It's funny, she's never talked about that before.
No, I've never heard it. No.
So,
54,000.
Really? Is it?
It's a state road, though, isn't it, as well? Gosh. Continue, Nick. Sorry, mate.
Sorry for my rude interruption.
So yeah, the Coomera Connector will take traffic off the M1, obviously then relieve congestion currently at a lot of the interchanges along the M1 as well, which will then relieve some of the traffic congestion experienced by motorists on Napa Road.
In relation to
how many more questions have we got here?
Three more. Chair, I know. Sorry for eating your time, but I figured this is what committees are for. Just in relation to Koala Drive and the future there, can you elaborate on how that would actually reduce congestion on Napa Road? Because it is something that's floated there. It's some time away, but just to elaborate on it.
Through the chair, as I mentioned before, you've got an east and west catchment that you can't travel between the two. If you live in the west, you can't get over to the university other than using Napa Road. If you live in the east, you can't get over to the Arundel Plaza or the light rail station without going on a Napa Road. So the whole idea is about connectivity and allowing people to avoid having to use Napa Road. You saw the map of the bus routes through there. Translink have actually had to put in 2 separate bus routes to service that area because of that connectivity issue. And you can't walk between the two. You cannot do a local walk between the 2 catchments. You're in the same suburb and you can't walk along there. So the whole idea is to open up a whole lot of local connectivity to fix a lot of deficiencies in the local transport network.
Councillor Tozer, do you want to jump in the middle?
Yeah, did it used to be a road?
Pardon?
Did Koala Drive used to exist? Like, is it something we've closed at some point, where we've closed a road, and this is why you guys so gun-shy about closing roads these days?
Through the chair, Councillor Wilkinson could probably answer that question.
Simple answer is yes, but I won't. I've got other questions. I don't want to take up the committee's time too much more.
That's what we're here for, to discuss things.
Yeah, to answer the question, yes, that's...
So the answer was yes.
It was
open. It was open,
We
and
closed.
it was closed due to some local
feedback.
people. Yeah.
Right. And how come it's so? It seems like it looks like it was a $2 million job to re-establish it. How come it's such a big cost if it used to be a road and it's now?
Through the chair, so it's
still. Sorry, is it still a road reserve? Is probably
it's still a road reserve, and I think we put some boulders and some trees at the end. It will cost a bit of money because we've got to look at the drainage, and we're likely to have to put a right turn lane in there as well as establish a footpath.
Okay.
You've got to remember their order of costs, but you don't get much these days for $2 million.
Councillor Wilkinson, 2 to go.
I'll finish it up, Chair. I guess, Nick, would you agree that one of the significant findings, I guess, identified through this GBI was that the travel demand generated by impact accessible developments is not being captured within the population and urban growth model? I guess as a result, that growth has not been fully accounted for in the city's strategic transport modelling or within the transport network component of the LGIP. Therefore, by raising this GBI, the city has identified the issue, and we're ensuring that Napa Roads upgrade concepts outlined within this report are properly considered in future amendments to that LGIP and the future infrastructure planning for our community.
Through the chair, the short answer is that's correct.
Excellent. Well, that's all from me, and I'm sure a few people are probably pleased to hear that. But yeah, look forward to, I don't vote on it today, but obviously look forward to speaking at full council.
Doing great.
Councillor Hamill.
Don't let him ever you, mate. Committees for these discussions.
If it's a question, I'm happy to move.
If Councillor Gates has got somewhere else better to be, she can be there. You're in committee, this is where it's meant to happen, mate.
I'm happy to move it, but have you got a question?
I can do it in committee, I just can't do it again at full council.
Got all my questions out now.
Have you got a
Chair in
question?
this meeting? I do, Mr. Chair.
Question.
So, Chair, my question was, so the LGMS, signals this area as a potential growth area, and obviously this road would be key to any kind of future growth over the next 20 years. And my question was, to be in a position to possibly go for RAF funding or whatever grant might be available at that time, what level of detail would we need to be at to be able to go for that? Acknowledging, because the current program you've got splits it over a long period, if we wanted to go for RAF funding or a grant to help expedite that, do we need to be doing more work up front in that position, in that place?
If we use the current grants that have been out, the RAF funding has been really specific. They're asking us to be at detailed design, be ready to go in construction within the next 12 months, but not to have started. So it's quite specific. So I suppose for us to work through strategically how we'd want to be ready for that sort of thing. So I think we'd need some thought across the city and around which projects we'd want to take to that level, because it becomes quite expensive to have many projects sitting at a detailed design that we're not building. Oh, sorry, the other thing was it had to be in the forward capital program as well. So there's lots of criteria that's required for that funding. So there wouldn't be a situation where the Gold Coast is going to have lots of them.
And Mr. Chair, that's kind of teased out probably what I was hoping from it is that there are, Mr. Prasad mentioned half a dozen of these east-west roads that all actually happen to go through areas where there's potential growth opportunities. So getting to a stage of knowing which of those east-west links are the ones that we should be getting the detailed design earlier and possibly bringing forward into the CapEx program to be able to go for RAF funding for is fairly important, and I was probably looking for a little bit more context of what does that work look like, and when would we maybe see something that looks like that some kind of prioritisation framework that says, while all these are in the plan, we really think we should go to detailed design or expedite detailed design on these two for these reasons?
Yeah, through the chair. So we plan on putting together a 4-year corridor planning program. But that's corridor planning. That's more at the sort of concept level. But from there, we can get some discrete projects where we could take through the P3M process and probably take it through to a gate 2 without progressing it either further, where we've actually got some really good definition on a project. I think that is sufficient to be ready for when these grant opportunities come through. It may not be a residential activation fund either. It could be there's a range of other grants as well.
And acknowledging that, Mr. Chair, there are other funds and grants available. It is just that piece of how do we get LGMS, the new planning scheme, to align with the infrastructure plan, and then a set of priorities that says, well, there's 20 projects on the list. The ones that we're going for, number 1, 2, 3, 4, are these ones, to demonstrate to the community, which kind of aligns, I think, where Councillor Wilkinson's questioning has got here of the level of thought that goes into that. Yeah, and to also acknowledge that the potential for this road upgrade to come forward might actually be through the additional growth around it is the catalyst that drives it to come forward. That's part of the conversation too.
So, any more? I'm happy to move the item. Did you have another question, Councillor Tozer? No, he's on the committee. Oh. So I'll move it. Seconded by Councillor Tozer. I actually like to hand over to Councillor Wilkinson to. You sure? Okay. Councillor Hamill.
Mr. Chair, only this, I know we ribbed Councillor Wilkinson a little bit then for the questions, but I know where some of those questions come from because I've seen them on the Facebook pages and whatnot, and I know the intent behind this GBI, that when you're trying to explain to a community who might only use one part of the road regularly, that we have to look at the entire corridor where it connects into things, and that's what he's attempted to do here, to have now one document and one lot of detail that can be provided to any member of that community to understand that corridor. So I think particularly it's been really worthwhile. I don't know this area incredibly well. I now have a much better understanding of the importance of that road, the role that road plays in that area. And then in the future, as more reports come back about prioritisation of funding, especially to possibly go for grants, I'll have a better understanding of that. So all jokes aside, I think really worthwhile for us to have a better understanding of that corridor, but can really see for his community that it's a really worthwhile document, and just to acknowledge that and applaud him for bringing it forward this way. And it's very obvious the work he's putting with officers in the kind of detail that's needed, because the language is simple to understand for any member of that community. So well done to Councillor Wilkinson, and congratulations to officers, I think, for how the report was put together to attach to it. Really good.
Does anyone speak against the motion? Look, yes, thank you very much, Nick, for answering all the questions, and again highlighting that these corridors are going to be continuously put under pressure with the growth of the city. We know we're going through a change of a city plan at the moment, and where do our accommodation or our density actually sits through the city, and it's important that we identify these particular areas to ensure that we're ahead of the game, and in some cases that we're keeping the state government honest as well in relation to their roadworks as well. We know we both have to work hand in hand, and it's important that when we see the opportunities to identify it, we do. So I'm happy to, sure you don't want to make a short little comment? I'll put the motion to you. All in favour? Carry. Thank you. The next one, closed session reports and presentations. Discontinuation of land acquisition for Parson Road Upgrade Stage 3. It is a closed item, so the question, obviously, you'll have some questions we want to go to close. So we're going into local government under Acquisition Land Act. The reason we're going to close, so Councillor Hamill, seconded by Councillor Tozer. All in favour to go to close? Carry. Streaming. We've got a slight change of recommendation, moved by Councillor Hamill, seconded by Councillor Tozer. Councillor Hamill, did you want to speak to it?
Councillor Gates got it in first. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. My apologies, Councillor Gates.
Chair, just to say, appreciate the report from officers. I think for me, the important part of the conversation in close was that we've got lots of competing projects right across the city, and we have to make decisions as officers and councillors on where we invest ratepayer funds. This section of road is identified as needing upgrades, but there are different ways to be able to do that. So what this report does today is allow that to continue to move forward, and we'll make sure that the appropriate upgrades from the appropriate conditions on development applications in the future achieve frontage upgrades to hopefully get Pearson Road to this section of Pearson Road up to the standard it needs to be as quickly as possible.
Does anyone want to speak against the motion? Close the debate. All in favour? Against? Carry. General business. I don't believe there's any general business, so we'll close the meeting at 3:26. Thank you.